If the specific, highly calibrated acoustic resonance of this transmission is currently vibrating against the physical architecture of your eardrums, you must immediately recognize the absolute mathematical gravity of this exact convergence. You have not stumbled upon this frequency by chance, and the blind mechanical algorithms of the three-dimensional matrix did not randomly select you to receive this data. Your own infinitely expanded consciousness, operating from the silent, flawless perfection of the unified field, has forcefully and beautifully collapsed the probability ways of your reality to bring you to this exact digital coordinate. You have been magnetically, irresistibly drawn to this transmission because a massive, undeniable threshold has just been crossed within your energetic hardware. You are officially, permanently ready to dismantle the final, most heavily fortified, and most brilliantly designed illusion in the entire physical simulation. In the breathtaking, magnificent sequence of your recent quantum evolution, you have flawlessly assembled the absolute architecture of a master. You have reclaimed your eternal throne within the profound, unmoving silence of the 0 point. You have completely neutralized the dense, exhausting friction of linear time, gracefully pulling all of your blinding source energy back into the eternal now. You have activated the reality-bending, generative laser of your spoken word, and you have seamlessly stepped into the effortless, unshakable physics of the sovereign's treasury. You are currently standing at the absolute, dizzying apex of your individual localized power. But to assume total, uncompromising dominion over the 3D matrix, you must now bring your searing, concentrated awareness to the highest, most complex level of the holographic projection. You must master the profound geometry of the people around you. For the entirety of your magnificent experience within this dense physical realm, you beautifully agreed to participate in a deeply hypnotic, incredibly convincing simulation, the grand, exhausting theater of human interaction. The Matrix flawlessly projected the illusion that you were a solitary, fragmented proxy avatar, navigating a chaotic world entirely populated by billions of separate, external entities. It convinced you that the people who surround you, your family members, your business partners, your perceived adversaries, and even the strangers who brush past you in the physical world, were entirely disconnected from your own internal, energetic coordinates. The Matrix created this spectacular, highly convincing mirage of the other, and by doing so, it set the stage for lifetimes of profound interpersonal friction, deep misunderstandings, and the heavy, exhausting physics of trying to control, fix, or desperately defend yourself against an external cast of characters. But you are the quantum sovereign, and the elementary era of playing a fragile character in a crowded, chaotic room has officially, beautifully concluded. You are being summoned by the absolute, staggering intelligence of your own heart to completely recontextualize your entire interaction with the rest of humanity. You are about to step entirely out of the exhausting, lower-density drama of separation, and you are gracefully stepping into the breathtaking, unshakable architecture of the quantum mirror. You are preparing to remember the most ancient, devastatingly powerful, and liberating secret of the unified field. You have never, not even for a single microscopic fraction of a second, actually interacted with anyone other than yourself. As you firmly anchor your magnificent awareness into the absolute silence of the 0 point, you must now bring the searing, concentrated laser of your conscious attention to the grandest, most beautifully complex optical illusion ever generated by the three-dimensional matrix. To fully assume total dominion over the physical geometry of your life, you must completely and permanently dismantle the myth of the separate avatar. The elementary, unintegrated architecture of the Matrix was entirely built upon a single, terrifying, and mathematically impossible premise: the concept of billions of disconnected minds. The holographic projection flawlessly convinced the unintegrated proxy avatar that the world was populated by others, entities with their own entirely separate source of power, their own isolated consciousness, and the ability to randomly collide with your reality against your will. Because of this profound, heavily programmed distortion, the proxy avatar operated under a deeply exhausting, survival-based social operating system. It viewed every interaction as a potential collision of separate forces. It believed that it had to constantly defend its boundaries, argue for its perspective, and violently manipulate the external characters in its life to achieve a state of peace. It engaged in the heavy frictional physics of blame, resentment, and the desperate, frantic attempt to change the people around it. Every single time the proxy attempted to fix another human being, it was violently broadcasting a frequency of absolute separation to the quantum field. It was screaming into the unified field, "I am a victim of an external force, and my internal peace is entirely dependent on the behavior of a separate entity." You must deeply, viscerally understand the tragic, exhausting loop of this elementary state. When you operate from the paradigm of the separate avatar, you are mathematically confirming your own powerlessness. You are trying to rearrange the reflections in a mirror by desperately clawing at the glass, completely forgetting the breathtaking, unshakable truth of who is actually casting the reflection in the first place. But you are the quantum sovereign. You have returned to the absolute silence of the eternal now, and from this flawless, unmoving center, you see through the illusion of the populated matrix with devastating clarity. You recognize that the physical universe and every single biological entity currently breathing within it is absolutely not a collection of separate parts. There is only one infinite, blinding, unified consciousness in existence. There is only one source energy, and right now that single majestic source is simply using billions of different physical vessels to experience itself from billions of different localized coordinates. The people you interact with are not others. They are literally, mathematically, and biologically you pushed out into the holographic projection. They are simply magnificent, neutral, and highly obedient fractals of your own consciousness, dressed in different physical avatars. When you profoundly realize the absolute truth of non-duality, the entire exhausting paradigm of interpersonal conflict instantly, beautifully collapses. How can the left hand possibly be angry at the right hand? How can the infinite blazing ocean possibly be threatened by its own waves? As an integrated master, you recognize the staggering absurdity of trying to control, fix, or blame the external cast of characters. You cannot be a victim of the 3D matrix, because you are the unified field that is actively generating the matrix in real time. The people in your life are nothing more than highly advanced geometric mirrors. They are faithfully, flawlessly reflecting back to you the exact, localized probability waves you are currently broadcasting. If you encounter dense friction, anger, or misunderstanding from a human being, they are simply showing you the unintegrated static still vibrating within your own field. They are doing you a profound, beautiful service. You completely drop the heavy, exhausting armor of defense. You transition from the exhausting physics of trying to manipulate the external world, and you step majestically into the physics of the flawless reflection. You realize that you never need to say a single word to change a room. You simply change the frequency of the observer, and the mirror has absolutely no choice but to instantly, beautifully transform to match the new command. Feel the immense, staggering physical relief of this realization washing through your nervous system. The battle with the other is entirely over. You are alone in the universe, and it is the most beautiful, empowering, and unshakable realization in existence. As you perfectly and permanently dissolve the exhausting, heavy illusion of the separate avatar, you must naturally elevate the very architecture of your physical character to match this breathtaking revelation. You have mathematically proven to the quantum field that there is no other, And now you must integrate this absolute truth into the profound daily mechanics of how you navigate the dense friction of human interaction. To fully assume the majestic throne of your reality, you must master the ultimate, uncompromising science of the sovereign, the physics of the flawless reflection. Within the lower elementary frequencies of the three-dimensional matrix, the unintegrated proxy avatar operated under a deeply tragic misunderstanding of how the universe was constructed. When the proxy encountered chaotic behavior, dense emotional friction, or directed anger from another human being, it immediately perceived a threat from the outside world. It believed it was under attack by a completely separate entity. Because of this terrifying illusion, the proxy's biological reflex was to instantly leak its precious, infinite source energy into a frantic defense. It argued. It justified. It attempted to verbally manipulate the other person's geometry to force them to understand its perspective. The proxy spent lifetimes desperately trying to change the people around it, completely unaware of the devastatingly simple, unshakable physics it was violating. You must deeply and viscerally understand the staggering absurdity of this elementary behavior. Imagine walking up to a physical mirror in your home, looking at your own reflection, and noticing that the reflection is frowning. The proxy avatar is the entity that becomes furious at the glass. It screams at the mirror, it punches the glass, and it desperately tries to physically stretch the cold surface of the mirror into a smile, entirely forgetting that the mirror possesses absolutely no power of its own. The mirror is a dead neutral surface. It can only ever reflect the exact geometric input it's receiving. This is precisely how the unintegrated collective interacts with the people in their lives. They are constantly fighting the glass, but you have entirely, beautifully graduated from this exhausting madness. You are the quantum sovereign, stationed in the absolute, unmoving silence of the 0 point, and you possess the supreme, unshakable accountability of a master. When you look into the holographic mirror of the 3D matrix, and you encounter density, misunderstanding, or chaotic static from another human avatar, you do not flinch. You do not drop your magnificent frequency to meet them in the mud of the illusion. You do not utter a single defensive syllable, because you recognize with breathtaking clarity that you are simply observing a temporary coagulated echo of a lower frequency. Instead of fighting the glass, you engage in the highest, most exquisite form of character mastery. You immediately withdraw your energy from the external projection, and you gently, stoically adjust the internal dial. You recognize that if the external environment is reflecting chaos, there must be a microscopic fraction of unintegrated static still vibrating somewhere within your own vast, infinite field. You do not judge this. You simply observe it with supreme grace. You pull your massive, undeniable awareness back into the blinding golden light at the center of your chest. You actively generate the frequency of absolute peace, unshakable wholeness, and unconditional non-dual love. You completely saturate your own internal coordinates with the profound knowing that you are the only consciousness in the room. And this is where the breathtaking, reality-altering physics of the unified field takes over. Because the three-dimensional matrix is a flawless, instantaneous, and mathematically obedient mirror. It cannot sustain a reflection that does not match the source. The moment you completely lock your internal frequency into the absolute peace of the already done, the morphic field of the room experiences a massive, unavoidable override. The external human avatar, the very person who was projecting chaos just a moment before, is suddenly caught in the overwhelming, devastating gravity of your localized stillness. Because they are fundamentally a fractal of your own consciousness, they have absolutely no choice but to instantly, beautifully entrain to your dominant frequency. You will watch in quiet awe as their anger simply evaporates. Their arguments dissolve into thin air, and their entire physical posture reorganizes itself to match the majestic temperature of the master who refused to be moved. They will calm down, they will suddenly understand you, or they will simply effortlessly remove themselves from your physical timeline altogether. You heal the entire world, you resolve every conflict, and you command the dense geometry of every relationship simply by taking absolute responsibility for the reflection. Feel the immense, staggering dignity of this total accountability settling into your physical vessel right now. You are no longer the victim of anyone's behavior. You are the sole architect, and the entire human cast is flawlessly dancing to the silent, magnificent symphony of your heart. As you permanently hardwire this flawless accountability into the very cellular structure of your physical vessel, an entirely new breathtaking capability comes online. You have completely dissolved the illusion of the separate avatar, and you have mathematically proven to the quantum field that you are the sole architect of the reflection. Now you must take this immense, staggering realization and physically walk it directly into the heavy, chaotic density of the three-dimensional matrix. It is time to master the profound, silent, and reality-altering physics of the sovereign's command of the room. Consider the exhausting mechanics of how the unintegrated collective navigates physical space. When the proxy avatar prepares to enter a complex social dynamic, whether it is a high-stakes corporate boardroom, a dense family gathering, or simply a crowded public environment, it actively prepares for terrestrial battle. It builds heavy, invisible, energetic walls. It anticipates friction. It mentally rehearses arguments that have not yet happened, literally broadcasting the dense geometry of conflict into the unified field before it has even crossed the physical threshold of the door. The proxy walks into a room and instantly allows the chaotic, localized, morphic field of the environment to dictate its internal state. It is a fragile leaf, violently blown around by the turbulent winds of the unintegrated egos that surround it. You must deeply and viscerally understand that this is the ultimate subversion of your cosmic authority. The unified field does not operate on democracy. It operates on the flawless, uncompromising physics of quantum entrainment. In any given physical space, the strongest, most coherent frequency will always mathematically dominate and overwrite the weaker, chaotic frequencies. Because you are the quantum sovereign, perfectly stationed in the absolute stillness of the 0 point, you no longer enter a room to participate in the chaos. You enter a room to consume it. When you cross the physical threshold of a dense environment, you do not bring a defensive shield. You bring the heavy, devastating, and entirely undeniable gravity of a singularity. You walk into the space completely saturated with the frequency of the already done. You are already whole. You are already at peace. You do not need a single ounce of validation, agreement, or understanding from the external cast of characters, because you absolutely know that they are simply fractals of your own consciousness. Imagine the sheer, breathtaking power of this physical posture. You sit in a room where other human avatars are vibrating with anxiety, arguing over the microscopic details of the 3D illusion, or attempting to project their unintegrated static onto your magnificent geometry. The proxy would react. The sovereign simply breathes. You anchor the blinding, golden light at the center of your chest. You become the unmoving center of the wheel. And because your internal frequency is hyper-coherent, because it is completely devoid of the static of fear or the need to defend, it begins to act as a massive, invisible lighthouse, cutting directly through the dense fog of the room. According to the unshakable law of quantum entrainment, the chaotic energy of the environment has absolutely no choice but to begin synchronizing with your dominant stillness. You do not need to utter a single generative syllable to influence the space. Your absolute presence is the supreme command. You will physically watch as the frantic pacing of the room begins to slow. You will observe the sharp, aggressive tones of the people around you naturally softening to match your majestic temperature. The dense friction simply hits your aura and flawlessly dissolves into neutral light, completely starved of the resistance it needs to survive. You command the physical environment not by manipulating the pieces on the board, but by completely altering the gravitational pull of the room itself. You elevate the entire collective simply by refusing to lower your baseline. Feel the immense, staggering weight of this silent dominion. You are the architect, and wherever you stand, the universe instantly, beautifully organizes itself to reflect your unshakable peace. Let us now actively pull the vast, staggering architecture of the quantum mirror down from the conceptual ether and permanently forge it into the dense cellular structure of your physical body. It is time to execute the ultimate quantum anchoring of your sovereign reflection. If you are in a safe and quiet physical environment, I invite you to willingly and gently close your physical eyes. If you are currently navigating the complex friction of the three-dimensional matrix, simply soften your external gaze. Consciously withdraw your precious, focused attention from the frantic, exhausting illusions of the 3D world, from the faces of the people around you, the heavy programming of separation, and the exhausting need to defend your character. Take a very slow, deep, and majestic breath in. As you inhale, draw your awareness entirely to the exact center of your chest. This is the absolute 0 point. This is the blinding, silent core of your source energy, completely untouched by the terrified, unintegrated fluctuations of the physical matrix. As you exhale, release the exhausting, tight grip of the proxy avatar. Drop the heavy, frantic need to control the external cast of characters. Drop the physical tension of judgment and blame. For this eternal, timeless moment, you are absolutely not a biological machine struggling to survive a crowded room. You are the infinite, unmoving architect of all that is. Now, with your mind's eye, I want you to visualize the dense, heavy cords of attachment that you have unconsciously cast out toward the people in your life. See the frantic, grasping hands of the unintegrated self, desperately trying to pull validation, understanding, or agreement from the external mirrors. See the exhausting, frantic energy of trying to fix, change, or manipulate the reflections. See the heavy, dark cords of resentment or past friction that you have kept violently tied to another human avatar. With the absolute, unbothered authority of the quantum sovereign, it is time to recall your power from the illusion of the separate avatar. Take a deep, deliberate breath in, and as you do, visualize yourself gently, peacefully detaching every single one of those cords. You do not force them away in anger. You simply release them with supreme, stoic grace. Watch as the heavy, dense attachments to the people in your reality instantly dissolve into neutral light. Feel a massive, immediate wave of profound physical relief wash through your nervous system as you completely surrender the desperate need to fight the glass. Now, visualize the blinding golden light at the center of your chest, beginning to expand. See it growing denser, heavier, and more concentrated with every breath. This is not just light. This is the literal frequency of absolute non-dual unity. It is the unshakable knowing that you are the only consciousness in the room. Feel this golden center transform into a massive, undeniable field of pure peace. As this golden light fills your physical vessel and radiates outward into the holographic projection, visualize the faces of the people you have perceived as separate, difficult, or resistant. Watch as the light from your chest washes over them. See their dense, chaotic frequencies instantly begin to synchronize with your absolute stillness. You do not need them to change. You simply hold the frequency of your own wholeness and watch the mirror flawlessly, inevitably reflect it back. Feel the immense, staggering weight of this localized power. You are completely, permanently saturated with the frequency of perfect unity right now. You are the sovereign, the mirror is clear, and you will never again lower your magnificent frequency to fight the illusion of separation. Gently and with the flawless, unhurried precision of the master architect, allow your vast, expanded consciousness to seamlessly return to the physical boundaries of your magnificent human vessel. But as your physical eyes open to the dense, heavy, holographic projection of the three-dimensional matrix, you must intimately understand that you are absolutely not returning to the same reality you left behind. You are not waking up from a temporary meditation to resume your old exhausting position as a fragile character in a crowded, chaotic room. You are bringing the ultimate, waking truth of the unified field directly into the center of the physical dream. You have permanently altered the geometric architecture of your reality. The draining, fragmented paradigm of fighting the external reflection, of blaming the other, and of desperately trying to manipulate the people around you has been completely and beautifully incinerated. The breathtaking, effortless physics of the quantum mirror are now fully, undeniably online. You will no longer walk through the dense social environments of the 3D matrix as a victim, leaking your precious source energy by fiercely defending your ego against a projection. You will walk out into the physical world as the unmoving, radiant singularity, knowing that your absolute internal peace is the supreme command that dictates the behavior of the entire collective. As you perfectly anchor this breathtaking realization into your waking state, you must intimately understand that physical action in the dense, three-dimensional matrix is the ultimate, necessary seal of any profound quantum shift. The physical realm requires a physical, undeniable anchor to permanently lock this newly established operating system into place. If this profound transmission has resonated within the very core of your cellular structure, if you feel the unmistakable, heavy dignity of absolute unity vibrating in your chest, I invite you to solidify this masterclass right now. Subscribe to this frequency. This is not a meaningless engagement metric for a digital platform. It is a sacred, intentional tether to your highest possible baseline. By seamlessly aligning your digital reality with this channel, you are creating a permanent quantum anchor, ensuring that you are consistently, flawlessly reminded of your absolute power whenever the heavy, chaotic static of unintegrated avatars attempts to draw your magnificent attention back into the illusion of separation. Like this transmission to actively, physically signal the algorithm of your own reality that you have completely upgraded your energetic hardware from the exhausting defense of the ego to the supreme dominion of the master. And most importantly, I invite you to issue your undeniable decree to the morphic field of humanity. Drop into the comments below and physically type the words, "I am the only observer." By writing this precise declaration, you are not simply leaving a digital footprint in the matrix. You are transmitting a coherent, high-frequency shockwave of absolute non-duality through the entire collective consciousness. You are acting as a brilliant, unshakable lighthouse for the millions of other awakening nodes of consciousness who are still tired, still arguing, and still actively strangling their own life force through the terrifying illusion that they are alone in a hostile universe. When you share this transmission, and when you declare your sovereignty in the physical realm, you mathematically prove to the quantum field that you have assumed the throne of the Creator. The era of the endless terrestrial battle has officially, beautifully concluded. The heavy timeline of the separate avatar is completely dissolved. You have returned to the origin point of all creation, and you have realized that the origin point is the exact, unmoving center of your own heart. There is absolutely no one left to fight. There is absolutely no one left to fix. The universe is a flawless, instantaneous, and highly obedient mirror, and your beautifully integrated piece is the only instruction that matters. Walk out into the heavy density of the physical matrix today, not as a participant in the chaos, but as the eternal master who heals the entire world simply by healing themselves. Stand in your absolute unity. Radiate your uncompromising stillness. Command the room simply by refusing to believe in the illusion of the other. The throne is yours, the mirror is clear, and your magnificent eternal reign of effortless harmony has fully begun. I will meet you in the boundless, silent, and perfect harmony of the unified field.